Hey everyone, and welcome to Staircase to Nowhere, your ministry and culture podcast. Whether you call them sacraments or ordinances, the commands Jesus gave us make up essential practices of his church. On our episode today, we dive into the nitty-gritty of communion, what it means, who can do it, and what authority means for the church. Now, we recognize that this is a complicated conversation. Heck, wars have been waged, denominations formed, and churches have split over disagreements about who can take communion, what actually happens when you take communion, who's allowed to administer communion, yada, yada, yada. I'm getting ahead of myself. So if you're anything like us, you probably have a lot of questions, and we would love to hear them. If you have questions about today's conversation around communion, send them our way. Or, spoiler alert, if you have questions about baptism, we'd love to hear those too. You can reach out to us in two main ways. One, you can send us an old-fashioned email at staircasepod@gmail.com. Or if you're listening on Spotify, you can reply directly to this episode and we can get your questions that way. We are so grateful that you are joining us for this conversation. We hope that in some way, it encourages you. Maybe you learned something. I did. But yeah, thanks again, and I will talk to you, I guess, in a few seconds.
Hello, everybody! It's Staircase to Nowhere, your ministry and culture podcast, in which we are trying not to be a staircase straight into a brick wall with our ministry practices. We are trying to look at the scriptures and interpret what does it mean to follow God today in our culture, a contextualized example of the mission of God. Oof. My name is Noah, and I am a seminary student, if you can tell by my talking, big words and stuff.
Me, David. Me, pastor.
Who'd you?
Me, hall director. Me, seminary graduate.
Oh, okay. He's got to throw that in there to be like, yeah, you're getting a degree. I already have the degree, so come at me.
Well, no, I'm saying I got dumber. No.
I don't know how to enter this one. I don't know how to dive in. But I'm Sam, and I'm glad to be here with David and Noah to talk about all of this stuff. Man, we're really good at launching these things.
Yeah, like David, you're talking about this degree, but like you just showed me that envelope, and you don't even know where your degree went.
Yeah, I have multiple degrees. I have no clue where the paper is. I spent tens of thousands of dollars for these papers that I have lost. I didn't show you this. I've got a super duper fancy like mahogany.
Oh wow.
Diploma holder with no diploma.
Yeah, those are the ones they're trying to sell you at commencement for like $60.
This is the Asbury one.
Yeah,
it's
to those
branded.
Not watching, David's holding up a very nice and expensive looking like picture frame in which you should put your diploma and hang on the wall to flex on the haters that yes, you have an Asbury education.
Legit, I think it's like 150 bones.
Dang.
And it's just in bubble wrap, not being used.
You never
because
opened
you lost your degree.
Should I hang it without a degree in it?
I think so.
I really think that like diplomas should be. I think they should send you like 1,000 like business card sized diplomas. So like when you're, you know what I mean? Like that's far more like useful because you just put your diploma maybe in your hallway or like in your office and like people. But if somebody's like, "Did you really go to college?" You can be like, "Yes, I did." Boom,
Boom.
Signed, sealed, certified.
3.4 GPA. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
it's on the card.
Everything's right there. All you need to know.
Cum laude? I don't know her.
That I feel like that would be a much more efficient way to like, whatever.
I totally disagree with that. It sounds weird.
If this helps,
it's weird. It's only weird because nobody does it. Like if everybody got them, it'd be like, oh yeah, that's my business card with my stuff. What is that?
So for those of you not watching. Which you guys really should watch our video podcast that we don't.
Yeah, you should join our FaceTime.
I still have the Asbury Seminary 95th commencement service thing.
You have like the pamphlet thing.
I have the
but you don't
pamphlet that
have-
they give out at graduation. So let me find my name. Let's see.
No, he didn't graduate. He's
No.
lying.
Boo. Nope, that's not how this
He
works.
bought the folder.
Master of Divinity.
He snuck in and got the paper so he could
made
get
it
this
up.
fancy job.
Dude, if somebody was like, "Did you really graduate?" and you're like, yes, look at this pamphlet that my name is in." Like, no, we need the diploma, dude. Like,
Don't
is
have
Right
it.
here. David Robert Neal with no asterisk, meaning
fake
Oh.
news.
did not join the Theta Phi Foundation or whatever. But I didn't know this. There was a David Neal Lacer who graduated.
Someone with almost your name.
Mm-hmm.
Was it spelled your way?
Nope, N-E-A-L.
Ugh, not you at all.
But anyway, I think I'll hang this up in my diploma holder in its stead. Oh,
And Sam, you've been busy too. You've got ringworm.
What? Why do you say you've been busy? You have ringworm. I shared in confidence with my friends before this call started that yes, I indeed have contracted a small fungal rash on my leg.
that's worse than
and
ringworm. Saying it like that is worse.
It is what it is. Everybody just needs to be adults about it. I'm using a small amount of cream.
Show us your
And it's
lotion.
gonna go
Show us
away.
your ointment. What's it say on it? No, not your leg.
It says ringworm cream. You know what? We
What's
were
it
going to
smell like?
Walgreens. Just ringworm cream. We were going to Walgreens, and I was like, "Who the heck wants to work here?" Because you know, like everybody's ailments. You know, like somebody
Is that
like,
prescription strength?
no, it's just regular. Just
Like, can I get it
stuff.
just at a regular? Like, I don't have to get a prescription for it.
no, it's like $4. Yeah, it's like the same as it's like similar to like athlete's foot. Is like similar type of like thing. So, but yeah, I was like, man, to check out, you know, when you go to Walgreens, you're usually there out of like dire necessity. It's like, I need something to fix a problem or make me smell good. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like for soap and deodorant, and then like, you know,
and I have
allergy
very
medicine.
different Walgreens experiences.
Yeah, agreed. David, what stuff do you get at Walgreens? I have one specific item I always get at Walgreens.
You know what I always get?
What?
The stuff that Caitlin prints there.
Oh my, you just go there to
photos.
get pictures? You never buy like pharmacy items? You never have to go.
One time bought throat lozenges there.
Okay, well,
See? And
have more embarrassing diseases to help me
the
out.
cashier had to know, oh, this guy's got a sore
No, I
throat.
get my
He's got a sore throat.
I get my embarrassing stuff from the Kroger's. I got
Nice.
pink eye when I was working at an elementary school. You think I wanted everyone to know I had pink eye from working at an elementary school? Nah.
Well, one, I didn't want people at Walgreens to know I had ringworm, and then now it's on the internet. And there was a guy like hovering over me while I'm trying to buy stuff, like another, you know, patron, like not a. He's just kind of older guy, just kind of talking. I'm like, dude, give me some space, bro.
Don't look at my ringworm cream.
Yeah, don't look
Okay.
at my ointment. I have to pick out.
Noah, I need you to be the judge. Which is worse? Pink eye or ringworm?
Ringworm.
Ringworm.
By
No.
far.
Yes, absolutely.
Pink eye is literal fecal matter that got in your eyeball.
Really?
Oh, is that what it is?
You didn't
Pink
know
eyes
that?
from poop?
No.
Look it up.
How'd you get that in your eye?
Look it up. Your eye gets all crusty and closes up because I'm pretty sure, like E. coli or something like that.
That sounds like a SpongeBob joke. I don't know if that's real.
Look it up, Sam.
The first Google like response is, while some people may call pink eye quote unquote poop eye, it's not always accurate. Young
Not-
children especially can get pink eye from rubbing their eyes after a bathroom visit.
Oh,
They don't wash their
what do you do
hands,
in the
but
bathroom?
It says several other types of bacteria can cause pink eye.
All from the bathroom.
I feel like you're on to something though. I understand your embarrassment because everybody knows you didn't wash your hands after you went to the bathroom once you get pink eye. But you've all heard, this is really gone off the rails, but you've probably heard like if you flatulate on someone's pillow, it'll
Yep.
give them pink eye. If you fart on
Oh,
someone's
that's because, yes,
Caitlin
that's
did it
because
to
of
me.
this.
I think it was Caitlin.
What? You You can't say that on the podcast.
Gosh, this is off the rails. But yeah, I'm doing fine. Everything's fine. If you Google pictures of ringworm, it's so alarming and it's not at all accurate to what's going on.
Buddy, I Googled it. I'm scared for you. Like,
does pink eye lead to lockjaw?
Pink eye?
Not
No,
pink
we're
eye.
talking-
I mean, ringworm. Doesn't ringworm lead to lockjaw?
Sam, you can't
death.
get lockjaw. I need to talk to you. If your jaw is locked, I will not be okay.
I'm Googling.
You know who I always associate with ringworm? High school wrestling teams.
Oh!
Because they're so squirmy and wormy.
No, I think there was multiple outbreaks in my high school career. Because they always have to spray down the mat. And I think that's why. Maybe it was
This
just...
They probably
says-
don't.
This just says if the skin is irritated or broken, it could lead to like a bacterial infection.
Oh.
Like if it's like, but it's not like spreading all over you and infecting you like, Walking Dead stuff. Just kind of like a little rash.
that would've been more
the size
fun.
of it's like the size of a dime. It's like tiny. And
This is such a good ministry and culture topic.
gosh.
Yeah, I know that Rebecca right now with her public health studies is just like, why are you talking about this?
Yeah, I'm so sorry for everybody. Whatever. Hey, we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it.
We're just being honest. We're just being real men, and we're
You know
able
what?
to talk about our stuff.
This is good because you guys are making fun of me for my rash I can't control, but I'm just trying to normalize this. We all
Hey,
get
that's what
stuff.
I publicly volunteered my pink eye.
We all get stuff. It's fine. If you're out there and you feel alone with your rash, you're not. Everybody gets
Not
stuff.
alone.
We'll help each other with our various ointments and lotions and creams. And we'll
Go to Walgreens.
We'll get through this together.
There is a place where they will not judge you. It's Walgreens.
So this is the subject we're talking about today is something I am super passionate about. I have put this on our list of subject matter since the beginning. So I'm really excited to have this conversation today about sacraments. Now, when you guys hear the word sacrament, what first comes to mind?
Sacrilegious.
Ooh.
Oh, interesting.
Do we need to talk about that? Are you okay? No.
No, not the sacraments are sacrilegious, but it's the same word.
Just
Yes.
it sounds like sacrilegious.
Yeah, like sacred. I think of like the Catholic Church.
Okay.
Yeah, I think of as a Baptist through and through, I think of communion and baptism as
Yeah.
the things that fit into that category. But I think of things that are like actions that are performed by the church and by clergy and stuff.
Yeah.
If that it's kind of just like the broad umbrella of things that the clergy do that are official church business.
Yes, the official duties.
The official duties
Well,
of
we'll-
the clergy.
Let's play a game real quick if you want to play at home as well. It's called What Are All the Sacraments?
What?
That was my mouth. If you thought that was real music, that was just me.
That was not a trumpet? All right. So those of you listening at home, don't look it up. But I'm going to pull up the list on my computer just so then I can confirm everything. List of...
Who's this list according to?
This is what any Christian denomination or organization will list as one of the sacraments. Okay? So, there are several. Let's begin.
Not to me.
Yeah, exactly. So,
This is
like
fun.
we
This is
mentioned
good.
before, the T in Baptist stands for two ordinances. Baptists don't even like the word sacrament.
No, this is good. Let the two Baptist boys try to guess the sacraments.
Okay, the other sacraments. All right, so I'm going to start with baptism because that's the easy one.
Okay?
Okay. I'm going to go with I'll stretch some. I'll go with confession.
Ooh.
Nice. Proud of you.
Thank you.
Yes, not exactly the term, but yeah, we'll use it. We'll allow it.
Yes.
Okay.
I got a technicality.
I'll allow it.
I'll allow it.
This in the terminology used by by Rome, it would be penance. Penance or reconciliation has 3 elements: conversion, confession, and celebration.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, my third guess was parties.
Okay.
Yes, the sacrament of party.
I said I said confession and kind of got it. You're up, Noah.
Marriage.
That is correct. Matrimony, the sacrament of marriage or holy matrimony. It's a public sign that one gives oneself totally to the other person. Okay.
Okay. The Eucharist, communion.
Correct. Communion is, or the Eucharist or communion, like you said, it's a sacrifice and a meal. And I do want to talk about this more later because this is one thing that 3 of us may have slightly in common, but also not completely in common. I.e., who is present at the table when we partake in communion? Is Christ fully present? Is the literal body and blood of Christ there at the table, or is it not? But that's a conversation for later on in this episode. Okay? Communion, nice. You have 1, 2, 3 more. Actually,
Dang.
and then there's 2 trick ones.
Okay.
I love trick sacraments.
I'm going to say one of the trick ones is foot washing.
Yes. No, actually, no.
Wow.
Foot washing is not the trick one.
Oh, that's just a real one?
That is a
foot
real
washing
one in
a
the Church
real
of
one?
God Anderson.
The Church of God, Anderson, Indiana.
Yes, which is a denomination. Thousands of churches. They're one of the few denominations that officially say that that foot washing is one of the prescribed activities for the church to partake in, coming out of when Jesus washed his disciples' feet.
And said, you should wash each other's feet.
Uh-oh. Likewise.
So next one is ordination one?
Yes, the holy orders, the sacrament of holy orders or ordination, the priest being ordained, basically being able to bring the sacraments, especially the Eucharist, is a huge part of holy orders. So yes, ordination is correct. On to our last of the final ones.
What you got, Noah? You got any?
Last rites. When you pray over people who are dying.
Last rites or extreme unction. That's my preferred term. It's the ritual of healing, the appropriately, basically praying for the sick, anointing the sick, and it's typically done in that deathbed kind of moment. Now the trick one. Any guess? I'm just going to do one trick. One trick.
For my next trick.
What are the sacraments for the Salvation Army Church?
Oh, come on. I'm assuming charity, so good deeds.
Great guess.
Like acts of mercy or something?
I love it. I wish that were a sacrament, but no, you're
it sounds
dead
good.
wrong.
Ringing bells.
At Christmas.
Yeah.
Something like military ranks.
Great. I'm proud of you for knowing that. Yes, instead of having the order of the elders or bishops or presbyters or deacons, they have generals and captains.
And
but
commanders and stuff.
You're dead wrong, Noah.
It's an army.
You are dead wrong. What is it? Give us the trick one.
They have none. They don't have any.
No sacraments.
Dang.
See, that's even less than Baptist.
That was tricky.
And part of that goes to their history of wanting to be able to preach to the masses. And so they wanted to get rid of barriers, and they kind of came out of Methodism and Anglicanism. And so it was like, all right, we don't want to create barriers for people knowing Jesus. So that is the setup for it. And I think it's interesting. We've used 2 terms, right? We've used sacrament and ordinance. Now, how do you, my Baptist colleagues here, what is an ordinance?
So, you got one, Sam?
I was going to say it's a sacrament.
It is, but we don't call it that. So ordinance, meaning that it was ordained by Jesus, that it was a practice that Jesus himself gave the church namely like in remembrance. So the Baptist view of ordinances is memorialist, that it's a remembrance of Jesus. So when we are baptized, it's not that you're getting saved, it's remembering Christ's death, identifying with his death, and then identifying with his resurrection as well, that you have new life in Christ, which is a symbol of what happened when you trusted in Christ. And then the same with communion.
I do also want to warn our listeners at home, the conversation, we're going to focus in on communion and baptism. And we're coming at this, Noah and Sam and myself are going to have 3 different opinions, right? We're coming at to something that unfortunately has been one of the more divisive issues in church history. Many people have split apart, excommunicated each other over these views. So my hope is if you're listening at home, have grace with us. We're going to have grace with you. None of us are going to claim entire truth in this, right? We're just trying to better understand these things that Jesus said to start doing. So within each one of those, there are countless interpretations of just these 2 sacraments we're going to focus in on today. But there are churches and people and families that have split apart over these things. So I'm just warning you all that I've had people tell me I was going to hell for some of my views on some of the sacraments. I don't know if you guys have, but...
Not yet. Well, yes, I have, yeah.
Well, wait till the episode comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
So I think I really want to talk about the Lord's Supper, right? What at your church, what do you guys call that? Do you have a specific name for that meal?
Communion.
Communion.
Yeah, that's kind of the vocabulary.
And how
we're going to take communion.
Walk me through how often it happens, the method of taking it, and the attitude around it. Could you?
So I can speak since, let's see, 2017. I've been a part of church communities that take communion weekly. We have, sorry, the wine is marked by twine, whatever your conscience permits is the buzzword for my folks out there in those circles. But yeah, communion comes at the end of the service after the message. It's almost like the response to the message. Usually there's a tie-in, like a gospel tie-in to, this is the table that reminds us of all the things we just preached about, Jesus left us with this meal to be united, as a family and with him and all that. It's a time of reflection. It's something that's taken really seriously. There's usually space where the pastor will talk about if you're not a believer, this meal isn't for you. If you are living in unrepented sin, you need to this is a time to make that right. There's this kind of let the Spirit lead you, but this is a time for believers to partake of this meal. And how it works is people leave their aisles, walk up front, and somebody will be holding a loaf of bread, and you tear a little piece off, and the person holding it will say, "This is the body of Christ broken for you." And then you dip it into either a cup of wine or a cup of juice, and you eat it, and that person will say, "This is the blood of Christ shed for you." But that's what communion looks like week in and week out for us and in our church.
The churches that I've been a part of mainly use tiny little cups for communion for the juice. So often the plate is passed around the room, so everyone stays in their seats, and the little cracker comes around that represents the bread, the body of Christ, and then the grape juice instead of wine comes in a tiny plastic cup, and everyone gets their own tiny little plastic cup and then takes a sip of it together.
Okay, and how often do you guys do it?
Growing up, we would do it once a month.
Okay.
The church that I've been at most recently also is doing it once a week, which again feels like that kind of cool neo-liturgical. We're not Catholic, we're not Anglicans, but we are doing communion every week now.
And then Sam hit on an interesting one, so I was going to ask a follow-up for you, Noah. What is the conversation like around the unknown people in the
open
room.
or closed communion.
Yes. Do you want to explain that for us?
So open and closed communion. So this is a good differential between the Wesleyan tradition and the Baptist tradition. So the churches that I've been a part of have made it a key distinction when you're serving the Lord's Supper to remind people, if they're not a Christian, that this meal is not for them. And the church that I've been a part of most recently turns that into a gospel invitation. Don't take the elements, but instead take Jesus. And this is an opportunity to receive him for yourself. This is the church I'm going to be a part of in Atlanta always has people available to pray. And so the idea would be, instead of going to take communion, you would go and talk with somebody. And that there's people that are available there to you as a decision counselor, or just to pray about something in that moment. Throughout Baptist history, there's been closed communion, where it's all about, you have to be a member of either this church to take communion. You're not supposed to take communion with this church if this isn't your church. You need to do it with your church. Or maybe they're a little bit more open, where they allow other Baptist members. You have to be a member of a like-minded Baptist church in which you were baptized by immersion in the same way. And even if you were baptized by immersion in, say, a Presbyterian church who believes in infant baptism, they would say, no, you may not take communion with us. So that's been a big historical question of who gets to do communion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so in my tradition, so Methodism, Wesleyanism, the phrase we use is an open table, right? And so, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that both of our respective histories do, it's a response to Catholicism, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So even y'all doing a closed table, but the way you do is a response to the Catholic. Ours is an open table, but in a response to the Catholic tradition as well. So we have a liturgy we go through. And we say, on the night Jesus was betrayed, we go through that whole thing. We talk. We have a liturgy we go through as a church, and we talk about what it means. And it's a big focus on the concept of even the heavenly banquet, right? This is the banquet at the end of the time when all the saints are gathered together at the heavenly banquet, and that's a big focus there. And in Methodist-style communion, traditionally we do it by intinction, meaning you put your bread into a communal cup, and then you eat your bread. But a lot of churches, because of COVID, moved away from that and started doing the Mick communions, or the little shot glasses of grape juice.
The plastic one with the tab that you got to rip off the top, and it's the worst crinkling.
And we are one of the few denominations that believe that that communion can be a converting ordinance, is the term that we use. I.e., you can come to the table, not a believer, and you can walk away from the table as a member of the family of God. Because communion is in itself a physical representation of the gospel. And so by accepting communion, you are accepting the God of the communion, right? You're accepting what Jesus did, this new covenant laid out for him. And so that is not a common belief held by most in the Protestant realm, but it is the belief held by most Orthodox Wesleyan Methodist Christians. And the question that I think is really interesting when it comes to this, it's a couple-fold. One, I kind of hit on this earlier. The debate on communion started because of the question is who's present at the communion table, right? We use this theology of the table, basically. Not all churches actually have a table set up, but back in the day they would. And communion started as an actual meal you would share with your friends. And there was two different things. There was a love feast that the church would partake in, and then the Lord's Supper that the church would partake in. And this was a moment where up until the Protestant Reformation, the church was all about the Lord's Supper, right? They would gather together weekly to partake in the Lord's Supper. And then the Protestant Reformation kind of changed that. And so even in the Catholic Church today, the focus of the service is on communion. Now, the problem that the three of us collectively will say is that the Catholic view of communion says that because the priest is present in the room and because of the blessing of the priest, after he says his magic words, the literal, physical body and blood of Christ takes over and becomes that physical piece of bread and that physical juice. It's not representational in the slightest. They would say almost like it's the literal DNA of Jesus is present in the blood and body of Christ.
And what's the theological word for that? The biggest one we know?
Transubstantiation.
Nice.
It's the biggest theological word in my dictionary. But
And
the
so,
belief that go ahead.
no, you're good, Sam. Go.
No, I was just saying the belief that the bread actually turns into like the flesh of Christ in like through the practice of communion, like when done properly. Same thing with the wine and stuff.
And so the priest would be, and if you actually believe that, you're going to be very protective of that, right? Like, if this is literally the blood and body of Jesus, you have a certain job to carefully take care of it. And so that's why in the Catholic Church today, they go to the extreme of like, you cannot take this communion unless you are confirmed in the Catholic Church. And so even though I'm a Methodist, or I was a Methodist pastor, and I go up, I cannot take communion. However, if a Catholic person wanted to come to my church, they would be allowed to. It's kind of confusing. And so their job, they're trying to preserve and protect the literal physical body and blood of Christ. Well, then comes Michael's best friend, Martin Luther. Shout out to Michael. You got Martin Luther and all the Protestant Reformation. And they say, hey, that's not right, but there is something here. Right? There's this holy unknown that comes with communion. It's trying to define something we can't fully understand. And everyone can kind of agree there's something special about communion, right? We can all kind of say it's like there's something different. But then the debate that comes in, and I brought a book about it.
Ooh, yes, David.
So there's two different major views within Protestantism. There's the spiritual presence view, which is what I would likely hold. And then there's the memorial view, which is likely what Noah would hold. I'm still a little confused by Sam's church. So in the spiritual presence view, it's kind of the word consubstantiation is the term we would use. And this meaning that not because of the priest, but by Jesus' power and by the body coming together, he is represented. And the word that Martin Luther it's Christ's body is literally in, with, and under the bread and the wine. So it's not that the bread becomes Christ's, but that Christ is within it, right? It doesn't change substance, but Christ is there with it. So Luther...
not change, but with.
Exactly. And so spiritual presence and memorial view are the two major themes. And so... We would say like Christ is uniquely present in communion, not through a physical change, but because of our gathering and because of our setting this time aside, there's a unique representation of Christ in that moment that we can't fully fathom. And that, I mean, you can look at Matthew 26, Mark 14, Luke 22. There's a couple of different places that point to that. But
what book are you reading, or what book do you have in front of you?
Yes. I've got two different books I was looking at today.
We'll link them.
One is An Outward Sign and an Inward Grace, The Place of Sacraments in Wesleyan Spirituality by Rob Staples. Nice. And this is one I go to a lot, called Across the Spectrum by Gregory Boyd and Paul Eddy. And this is really, really good because it's basically understanding issues in evangelical theology. So they have a... Let's see. They have a section on the atonement debate. So did Christ die in our place? Did Christ destroy Satan and his work? Or did Christ display God's wrath against sin? They have the eternal security debate. And so they look at responses to different things. So this is nice. the communion debate. And so in Methodism and in Wesleyanism, we would say there's this special thing that happens at the table. and we can't really fully understand it. But we believe that God shows up in a unique way when we come together at the table. However, you guys can comment. Would you say you're more in the memorialistic view? And could you comment on that?
I don't know where I am. I lean towards I lean more towards the spiritual presence, honestly, that there is something unique about communion that honestly we might not even understand completely. Like there is something about it. Whether that is the memory, like, I mean, Jesus like saying like, do this in remembrance of me. Like this is how you're going to remember like my words and what you're about to see in my crucifixion and stuff. But I really think even the early church saw communion as something special and not just a meal where they're like, remember our old rabbi, remember our old teacher? Like this meal reminds me of him. No, like they treated it as something different. Like they treated it as something special, and it got them persecuted and got them like, people were confused because, early on people were like, they're cannibals. They're eating people. And they're like, no, that's not it's not that. It's a memorial view, whatever. But yeah, so I lean more towards, I grew up with the memorial view, but I've like kind of opened myself up more kind of to the idea that maybe there's something more, honestly, like mystical, something more that is present at the table than just remembering. So, Noah, where do you land on this?
It's a good question. I think that I haven't just studied it enough, to be honest. Like I've led communion in church, which is interesting because I'm not an ordained person. Is that allowed?
That's a good conversation for in a little bit.
And I think that when I was leading it, my focus was on the memory of Christ.
Yeah.
I think that I definitely would advocate for the presence of Christ in the sense that the gathered church is all about the presence of Christ. Like we have the Holy Spirit inside of us, and when we gather, like there's like more of his presence. But I think I think that view is really interesting. I just also think it's kind of undefined. It's like we don't really know what's special. Something's special. And like I'm sympathetic to that, but I'd say that I just haven't like necessarily like researched it well enough.
Yeah. Well, and this is interesting. You guys will appreciate this. A lady I used to do outreach with, we were at an encampment doing some stuff, whatever. And she pulled out some communion out of her car and took it like, she was took it almost like you would a 5-hour energy. Like, and she
like
told
for
me,
herself, just like
for
quick,
herself.
gotta take some communion.
Yeah, she was like, sometimes she's like, you get, cause she knew I was a Christian. She was like, you get it. Sometimes you just need like a little boost of like the Lord or whatever she said. But like, she took it as like, yeah, this is something that is very physical. This is like an empowering thing for me spiritually. Like, which I don't think that that's a healthy view of how it works. And I don't
for
think
one person to take by themselves.
Yeah. Like to view it as like, there is something very tangible about this thing that I'm doing as a believer. Yeah, I have a lot of disagreements with it, but that's like an end of the spectrum.
That's
like,
funny.
Of like, what is happening here?
That goes back to early Catholicism. The priest they had to change it to where the priest had to put the bread on the tongue of their parishioners because people were stealing pieces of Jesus to go and sell and give to people. So it's kind of funny that came back 1,000 years later.
Hustling.
That leads to the next thing I want to talk about. You guys have both done camps and random things like that. Have you guys ever taken communion or seen someone get baptized outside of the walls of your local church?
Ooh. So the first place that I think of where I've taken communion outside of the walls of the local church is at Taylor at a beginning of the semester at our Christian university. The entire campus, an interdenominational evangelical campus,
Which clearly
would take communion together.
And they clearly state, we are not a church.
Not a church. And then, interestingly, also this past month, they had a summer camp, and they posted on Instagram at Taylor that at the end of the camp, some of the students asked to be baptized. And so somebody baptized them in Taylor Lake. And I was just kind of like, huh? Like, what church are they being baptized into? Because they were all there at camp from somewhere else. So it's not like they were there as one church and they were leaving to go home. That was a little confusing.
I could split the difference from that. When I was on staff, when I was like serving as a student pastor in Mississippi, I led communion in the parsonage for like a small group of like college students. Like we had like a set apart night of like prayer and like Bible study and stuff. And I led them through, I would say it was like a more meditative time of communion. That was like almost like a study of like, this is what we're doing here. Like here's extra time for reflection and like confession and prayer, and then led through communion that way. And I was on staff as a pastor, but I like did it it wasn't in the sanctuary. It was technically on church property because it was in the parsonage. But so is that the walls of the church? I don't know. And another time I baptized, I don't remember if it was one or two, but baptized a student or two students in a lake after we did like a service day. Like we went out and like served at like a nursing home and did some stuff, did some teaching, and baptized somebody in a lake, not in the church building, but I baptized them as like one of their ministers there. So, yeah, it wasn't in the church building, but I was like clergy. So it's just kind of funny to go from, or I say that to say kind of this like moving dial of different times.
Yeah. I definitely see those as very different than what I described, Sam, especially like you being a pastor with your church in a home to take communion together. I don't care what building you're in, you are being the church, you know?
Yeah, well, I guess I would assume some people would say, well, like, that's a little informal. Like, I baptized somebody in a bathing suit in a lake. Like, that's a little, you know what I mean? So I guess some people would probably push back and say, you probably shouldn't do it that way. But
I would say...
But
Go ahead, Noah, sorry.
Were other people from the church there? Would you say the church was there?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm all for it. Like, heck yeah.
I know you were. You did it. But I think that's what matters, that the church is there, not that the church building is there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say most Protestant would have no problem doing if a pastor gives communion to one of their parishioners, but it's in the nursing home or on the highway.
That's true. In the hospital.
Right? They have no problem with that. Some people would say, however, it was interesting reading the beginning, like the opening dialogue, someone who was Catholic came to a Protestant church, and if you come from a Catholic church to a Protestant church, it does feel very informal, and you could even say, to a certain extent, disrespectful, right? There are some churches that just say, hey, if you want communion, there's some in the back of the room, right? That seems kind of dismissive if you believe that's the presence of Christ. However, so the question is, it goes to the place I wanted to talk about, is the term we use sometimes is sacramental authority. That kind of has a couple of definitions, but who has the right or privilege to oversee the sacraments, right? And that comes to our history as a very high church and everything like that. A lot of this goes to this place of basically, in most mainline denominations, the pastor of that church is the only one who can oversee and administer the sacraments of communion and baptism, right? There can be other people there present to help. So if you're in a baptism and your pastor isn't physically capable to put you underwater, your pastor can be the one to kind of oversee the situation. And so the funny thing is this has become literally cuckoo town banana pants.
But
Cuckoo Town Banana Pants.
So for about 2 years at the church, or a year or so, the church I was serving at, I was not yet ordained. And I wanted to give my parishioners communion. So first Sunday of the month, you know what I had to do? In order so that I would not get in trouble or get fired, I had to call my dad, who is an ordained elder, and he would pray over the phone over the elements for communion. If I did not do that, I could have gotten fired. But as long as his voice presided over the elements,
touched the bread,
they were fine.
Noah's laughing.
Oh, sorry.
It's bonkers. It's bonkers. And so
cuckoo banana pants.
You will have like
Cuckoo Banana.
you will have like Methodists like okay, we're going on a camping trip. We're going to have the pastor pray for this stuff so then we can take communion when we're on our camping trip, right? So this concept,
you got to buy that juice ahead of time.
Yeah.
So this concept of sacramental authority has become, in some ways, its own like God in of itself. And I remember when I was in seminary, I was so perplexed by it because we put all this like pressure and everything on the sacraments, right? Like we say, all right, the pastor, he or she in the Methodist Church is going to be the one overseeing the elements, and there's all this power over it. And I tell you what, guys, in my 3 years at seminary, I only had one class about sacraments, right? But then most of my time was spent learning how to preach, right? Or how to pastor, right? Like counseling or studying Greek or studying the Bible. So we believe that all people should preach the gospel, but only the elders should oversee communion. Yet, for some reason, we only had one class about communion. So it felt like there was this disconnect, right? Like, if it's the most important thing, like if it's the one thing that we can do that other people can't do, why are we not spending more time on it? Now, I'm going to ask you guys a question. Where do you think churches, like, assuming positive intent, why do you think churches have sacramental authority?
Like where they limit the people who can do the sacraments to only special ordained people?
Yes.
I think in the positive sense, it's this desire to protect the doctrine and protect the gospel. You know, you don't just want the lady on the side of the road administering communion to herself as a 5-hour energy before serving some people. You want people who have some theological training, who have been confirmed by other elders that they are a pastor, to be the one to baptize someone. You don't want someone random to baptize someone else in their bathtub and that person to think that I'm baptized when really that person doesn't know anything between Jesus and, somebody else. So I think that there is like that good desire to protect the message and that they should be ordained, whether that means they have to get theological education or that means that they've been confirmed by other elders. We're protecting something by only letting these people do it.
I like that.
Yeah. I think like being able to answer the question, what just happened after you baptize somebody or you administer communion is really important. Like, and I'm probably more like, I would probably be more liberal in my understanding of like who can administer the sacraments and who can perform baptisms and stuff, but recognizing the danger if someone just baptizes somebody in their pool, but then it's like, okay, well, what next? Like, what just happened? Like, that is where there is like the infrastructure that is built into the church around discipleship and like accountability and teaching and gathering and like that. All of that is a package deal because it's a part of being the church together. So I think protecting that sacramental authority is echoing what Noah said about having people in place who are performing these things, who are like have the competency not just to like hand out bread and just, immerse people under water, but it's deeper.
That was a statement
or
of
sprinkle
itself.
them with water. All right, whatever. But like whatever it is, it's not just about that one thing. It's about life with Christ, and it's bringing them through. It's a discipleship thing ultimately. All of this interplays. So yeah, I think the most generous thing of why is this reserved for specific people is because they're really big deals. Like they're important. They're not supposed to be just administered randomly on the side of the road. I don't like just for fun like that. So
I like it. 1 Corinthians 11:17 is the go-to biblical support. Basically, Paul gives instructions and helps people. Like he even says, like, for this is verse 21. For at the meal, each one eats his own supper. So one person is hungry while another gets drunk. Don't you have homes in which to eat and get drunk? Or do you despise the church of God and humiliate those who have nothing? What should I say to you? Should I praise you? For I received from the Lord what I also passed on to you. On the night, so then he goes through and so basically Paul is saying, like, there's a certain level of, like, there needs to be some rules and walls up because it could turn, and he's saying, like, the church in Corinth, they were abusing communion, right? There were people who weren't getting food at all. And so, to me, I think your story of the lady getting communion on the side of the road is an exact reason why we need. I guess this goes to a bigger conversation: can man self-govern? Right? Like, are we able to make right choices on our own? And this is basically saying, like, we need help, right? And the problem is, this goes even to our politics conversation, right? Like, humans need. Like, we have a society and there are rules for our society. And so the temptation is to just do whatever makes us feel good. And honestly, like, communion and baptism, they do feel good because there's that presence of God there. However, people can abuse it and turn it into a power trip or a way to, exclude certain people or to hurt certain people or to, gain authority. And so I think because it is such a precious thing that we can't really fully understand. I'm not one to say you got to call your dad on the phone to pray over it before you do it, right? But I think by having other people to confirm in you, like, yeah, you are a minister of the gospel, and you do need people to be able to do that. One of my heroes of the faith is a guy named Strawbridge. He was an early Methodist circuit rider who came to Indiana.
Explain what that is. Explain what a circuit rider did.
He was a pastor who would just travel around the great Northwest Territory from church to church, each week at a different church, basically, and he would ride thousands of miles in his lifetime. And
on a horse.
And he
on a Methodist.
He knew that people needed baptized, and he was not yet ordained. Right? He had not gone through all the hoops. He was not formally educated in this way. And yet he knew people needed communion. People needed baptized. And so he went around. He was the rogue baptizer, right? He would baptize people even though he had no authority. And he got in big trouble. And guess what he did? He kept doing it. And people were getting saved. And they've actually, the Methodists have since pardoned him. Like, he got, dishonorably discharged. But I think... They
said LOL JK.
Yeah. Post-mortem, honor.
Whoopsie doopsie.
Whoopsie doopsie. So, I think the thing I want to get to with us, because we're running out of time, is I could talk about the sacraments forever, right? There's, to me, baptism could be a whole nother episode, because there's questions about baptism, and all of us are going to have different opinions on it. Here's what I think is in need for belonging. And I think the table of Christ is one of the best places for us to belong, right? We've had those moments where we didn't feel like anyone liked us or loved us. You guys were in middle school too, right? You walk into the middle school cafeteria and there's no room left for you. That's not what the church is here for. We're here to pull up a seat next to us at the table and say, hey, this God who came down to us and said, hey, I'm dying for you. It's because I love you and I want you to be part of this covenant. I want you to be a part of this relationship. And so the communion is vitally important. And I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you drink Welch's grape juice or Merlot. But the idea of saying, hey, Christ did this and he wants us to continue to do it. Case to somewhere for me. Where do we go from here?
Well, that pastoral word of just, you're right. I mean, what you just said, David, like the world needs the table. Like that's the hope. And I guess to staircase, not like, I don't want to rewrite church bylaws and stuff around, communion or anything for people, but just, I would really love, if you're still listening, to meditate and kind of try to let your imagination be recaptured about what's happening, at that table. This could be a whole nother podcast episode, but I can provide some homework if people want it. I mean, when Jesus, instituted communion, he didn't do it in a vacuum. It was during Passover, and he was using a meal that people were familiar with, and then said, hey, this is actually about me. And the story in reference at that meal is the Exodus story, and there's a lot of beautiful imagery with the bread and the wine that already existed in like Jewish thought, but Jesus is saying, no, this is actually about me. Like, this is, I'm the bread, I'm the wine. And so for homework, go back, read the Exodus story, read what the Old Testament talks about with Passover and what it's supposed to be for the people of Israel, and then consider what it means for Jesus to take that on and say, actually, that's me. I'm the thing that is doing that. So I think just needing, David, like you said, we need this to recapture the imagination about what's happening at communion. This isn't a tag on to service. This is a family meal. Like, this is supposed to be a family meal that, we're constantly pulling up chairs to invite people into it. That's the hope. So, what you got, Noah? Can I leave you with that?
Well, first off, I just want to celebrate Professor David for the thought-provoking things that you shared with us.
Your Asbury
I really
show.
loved, just hearing you go and the things you're passionate about. Really awesome. I think the biggest takeaway for me is just to be asking the question, why? I think that the next time that you are in a church service and communion is served, I just want you to kind of notice the method they do it. Are we all using little cups? Are we all drinking from the same cup? Are we tearing off a piece of bread? Are we breaking a cracker? Just notice those little things. Notice who's serving it. Who gets to lead from the front? Who gets to hand it out? Notice what passages are they reading or what are they describing when they talk about it? And just kind of recognize that these rituals that we do are not just rituals. We're Protestants, after all. We're not Catholics.
We're not Catholics.
We don't just do the same thing over and over again, or do we? We should be asking why. And is this what Jesus had commanded us to do? The way that we're doing it. So be looking, asking those questions, looking for the deeper meanings, and trying to understand, why do we actually do this?
And when you ask those questions, go ask them to the person serving. Go ask your pastor. Don't ask us. Don't ask, this isn't, the whole point of this is not to just Google and philosophize around what the heck is going on. It's about people that do this communion thing well, that take the sacrament. So that's all. I just wanted to tag that on. Yes. Ask the questions and talk about it with the people you're taking communion with. Don't just get on a podcast to talk about it. Ask the people you're doing it with.
Exactly. TikTok is going to tell you all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah.
But your pastor is serving it that way for a reason.
Yes.
And you could ask them and figure out, what's the tradition? What's the understanding? Why do they believe this? And see if that's what you believe.
Yes. Do it. David, why don't you wrap us up since you just carried us through this whole thing?
Oh my goodness. Thank you guys for engaging with this with me. I think this is such an invaluable conversation. And I hope you guys will continue to do your homework that was assigned to you by Noah and Sam. Just stop and take notice, right? There's a reason we do what we do. And so I want to challenge you guys to do that. And if you have questions about communion, if we hit something that may be divisive for you, we'd love to be able to help. If you can't get a hold of your pastor, we'd like to be able to help you. So if you have questions about communion or anything like that, please email us or respond via Spotify. Or if you know us personally, hit us up.
Yeah, just text us.
And if you want us to talk about baptism, I'd love to do a whole episode on baptism too. So
I think we should.
And ordination. What the heck is it?
Yeah. Oh boy. I'm not doing that.
But thank you all for listening this week. We think you're pretty cool. And thanks for listening to Staircase to Nowhere. Have a good day.
May God bless you. We're authorized to give blessings, right?